Hello and welcome into this week's edition of the ARCA Rewind Show right here on Racing News Now. As always, I'm your host, Garth Allen. Thank you once again for joining me today. If this is your first time catching a Racing News Now video, welcome. This is a channel where we discuss lots of motorsports, namely NASCAR, ARCA, IndyCar, and Formula One. Those are the series that we cover at the moment. Eventually, we do plan to broaden that scope, though. So on today's edition of the ARCA Racing Series Rewind Show, we're looking back at yesterday's General Tire #AnywhereIsPossible 200 from the Pocono Raceway, 80 laps around the tricky triangle, and Harrison Burton was the one to come out on top in this one in his number 12 Dex Imaging Toyota for MDM Motorsports. That makes 5 wins in 7 races this season for MDM Motorsports. Just an incredible start to the season for that team. Remember, 3 of those coming from Zane Smith, 1 from Brandon Jones last week in Charlotte, and now Harrison Burton picking up his first win of the season. Second of his ARCA career, though, as he won at Toledo last year. So Harrison Burton comes out on top in this one in a 1-2-3 finish for MDM Motorsports. Sheldon Creed in second and Zane Smith in third. A very strong run for Travis Braden in fourth. Got to give a shout out to him, his best run of the season. And Riley Herbst rounds out the top 5. Your defending winner of this race. Just wasn't quite as strong as he was in last year's June Pocono race. He did have a fast car. I just don't know that he really had enough to do what he did last year, especially compared to how strong the MDM cars were. Gus Dean was really strong for a while. Brendan Poole was really strong in that 25 car for a lot of the race. Noah Gragson in the 54 was really strong. He just had a lot of really fast cars this year that I think really leveled the playing field a lot for Riley Herbst. Rest of your top 10, Gus Dean, Joe Graff Jr. Brendan Poole was in the 25 after lap 1 for Natalie Decker. She did start the race as they came down pit road. As the field took the green flag, her pit stall was past the start-finish line, so technically she started the race, but still recovering from her hernia surgery last Friday. Was not cleared to race, so she did take the green flag, so she got the points for the race, but Brendan Poole actually ran the race and came home with a respectable 8th place finish. Was up there battling for the win late in the race, as high as 2nd at one point. Comes home in the 8th position. Chase Purdy and Noah Gragson round out the top 10. Noah Gragson really, in that 54 car for DGR Crosley, really had the fastest car in the early portions of the race, and then the pit stops there around the middle of the race kind of screwed up his race a little bit because he didn't pit before the caution. There were some guys that pitted under green flag before a caution. They're around lap 40 or so. He ends up pitting on the caution. Then they have an uncontrolled tire during the pit stop, which sends him to the back of the pack, and the car just didn't seem to act the same in traffic as it did out front, which is expected. And just he never could quite fight his way back to the lead. Looking down here, 11th through 20th, Christian Eckes had an interesting day. His super speedway debut, spun it off of the tunnel turn 2 at one point. Didn't hit anything and does rebound for a respectable 11th place finish. I'm sure not the day, though, that Christian was looking for. Brett Holmes comes home in the 13th position. Was battling up there in the top 10 for a while, but 13th was all he could muster. LB Skaggs with a respectable debut in the ARCA Racing Series comes home in the 14th position. Modified racer from down in Florida. So kudos to him for a 14th place finish in his first ARCA race. He is from North Fort Myers, Florida. Max Tolman in the 78 for Mason Mitchell Motorsports this week comes home in the 15th position. Bobby Gerhart in his, I believe, 3rd race of the season, 16th on the day. Cody Robaugh had a fast car. Not the finish that I think he was looking for, 17th on the day. Will Rogers got caught up in a couple incidents on the day, smacked the wall early off of turn 3, rebounded from that though, and then got caught up in another incident late, 18th on the day for Will Rogers. Leilani Munter down here in 22nd. Never really had a lot of speed in the car to begin with. Was down there in the 20s most of the day as it was, but got caught up in a wreck late here with Tony Marakovic, Ed Pompa, and Jesse Iwuji coming off of turn 2. And that would be the end of her day at lap 57. Tony Marakovic actually, by my count, was involved in 4 incidents on the day. Most of those, other than this particular wreck with Leilani Munter, were just single car spins. So, not really sure what the deal there was, but Tony Marakovic causing multiple cautions throughout the day. Thad Moffitt down here in 25th. His day did not get off to the greatest of starts. He was involved in the first incident with Tony Marakovic. Fox didn't really have a great camera angle of this, so it never really could determine whether Thad got into Marakovic or exactly what happened there, but we do know Thad was involved in that one, and just was in the garage for most of the day. Ended up coming back out later to try and gain a few spots at the end for points, but 25th would be the best that Thad Moffitt could do on the day. So that's your results from the General Tire hashtag Anywhere Is Possible 200. We had a chance to catch up with Harrison Burton earlier this morning and chat about his win yesterday in Pocono. So let's take a look at that. All right, we're now joined by Harrison Burton, winner of yesterday's General Tire Anywhere Is Possible 200 from the Pocono Raceway. Harrison, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. I had a lot of fun yesterday, obviously, and that's what you go to the racetrack to do, is you go out to win races and compete at a high level. So when you can go out and accomplish that, it's really cool and a lot of fun, for sure.
Definitely. So just talk us through your day yesterday. You definitely weren't leading for most of the day till there at the end, so just talk us through your day leading up to that final stretch.
Well, we knew we had a fast car. Our practice/qualifying, it all got condensed into one, so we were trying to do that. We had a mechanical failure, so we only got one lap in for practice, and that really hurt us, track position wise, and at that racetrack, it's so hard to pass and get runs on people because of the draft and side drafting and all that. You have to do everything right to get a pass made. So that really kind of put us behind the eight. But our team never quit. We kept marching forward and marching ahead, and that's what it's all about, man, is when you have not everything going your way, but you can still find a way to get it done. That's what's really cool, and I got to give a big hat off to my guys for giving me a car good enough to go and do it.
All right, so talk us through that final stretch there. You ended up with a 1-2-3 finish for MDM Motorsports with your teammates Sheldon Creed and Zane Smith right behind you. What was that like, feeling pressure from your teammates right there at the end? How confident were you that you could beat them?
Well, that's nothing new, right? MDM is really so far been really dominant, and it's been a great team. Everyone works together well, and we have a lot of fun. All the drivers were close, and we hang out and play Xbox or whatever. On the weekend we're not racing, so that's nothing new really. MDM, all the cars. That's when you go to the racetrack, you're gonna have to be your teammates because they're in really similar equipment to you, and they're gonna be fast. So for me, the biggest thing was just trying and outrun them and do everything I could right.
Okay, so the next race on your schedule, if I'm not mistaken, is Gateway. So Gateway is a lot different than Pocono. It's a lot shorter, but it's not necessarily your typical short track in terms of the way it's shaped. Can you take anything away from Pocono that you might be able to apply to Gateway?
Yeah, for sure. And the thing about Pocono and Gateway that's similar is both corners are very different than each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pocono, you have 3 corners that are very different. In Gateway, you have corners that are very different as well. You have a really tight corner down in 1 and 2 and a really long sweeping corner that's really similar to turn 3 at Pocono in turn 3 and 4 over there. So I think you can kind of take some stuff as a driver, work in the air a little bit. It's not going to be as big as it was at Pocono. But aero is still going to come into play at Gateway, and we're going to have to learn how to work that a little better. So, overall, I think you can take any any racetrack, you know, there's short tracks when you're growing up and all that. It teaches you the fundamentals, and I think that for me, the thing is every racetrack you can take away from something and try and take it to the future.
I think that's a great way to look at it. Well, Harrison, thank you for joining me today. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and congratulations on your win yesterday.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure, and hopefully I can come back and talk about some more wins.
I hope so. We want to thank Harrison again for chatting with us today and coming on. It's a pleasure to talk to him, especially after a win. And so now, before we wrap up here, we will look at the point standings following the General Tire #AnywhereIsPossible200. And not a lot of changes here, as positions seem to start being solidified. Zane Smith and Sheldon Creed padding that lead they have over everyone else just a little bit more in this race. They're now only 10 points apart from each other, so definitely these two really establishing themselves as the two championship frontrunners as we go through the summer months here. The only other change here is Natalie Decker jumps over Chase Purdy, now 5 points above Chase Purdy after Brennan Poole's 8th place run for Natalie. I know, kind of confusing there on how that works, but Natalie does get the points for the race since she technically started the race. She did take the green flag, so she gets the points. And that does, because of Brennan's 8th place finish, that does move her above Chase Purdy. The only other change here, Joe Graff Jr., who wasn't planned to run a full season at the beginning of the year, but now running a full season, has moved into the top 10 in 10th. Only 20 points back here from Brandon Grosso, who did not compete this week in that 52 card that he's been in for most of the season up to this point. So Joe Graff very close there. Not only is he in the top 10 now, but almost up to 9th position as well. So that's your points following the General Tire #AnywhereIsPossible200, and I think that will do it for us today on the ARCA Racing Series Rewind Show. Thank you for joining me as always. We will have a Xfinity Series Rewind Show coming up later today, as they are on track at 1 p.m. this afternoon from Pocono, probably around the time this is going to go up. I'm not sure. It just depends on editing and upload time exactly when this goes up, but it'll probably be around the time green flag drops on the Xfinity race. So we will have a rewind show for that coming up later this evening as well, so look for that. If you haven't done it already, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing from Racing News Now. And hit that big thumbs up button if you like the video. It is much appreciated when you do. So with that, this has been the ARCA Racing Series Rewind Show. I'm Garth Allen for Racing News Now.